Aloha and welcome to Hawaii Tropical Botanical Gardens, Conversations in the Garden. Today we have one of our gardeners, Brayden, who will be talking to us about one of the 5 families found in the garden, Bromeliads. Today we'll be discussing some fun facts about Bromeliads, species found in the garden, different types of Bromeliads, and how to grow them. Join us in today's episode of Conversations in the Garden, Bromeliad.
Hello everyone, I'm Alexis and today we'll be discussing one of the 5 families in the garden, Bromeliads. Today I have Brayden with me. So Brayden, what can you tell me about Bromeliads?
So Bromeliads are herbaceous monocots, and they grow in a rosette type of pattern, which are known for holding water, and they're really an incredible family. They have such a large variety. Just in the Bromeliaceae family, they have over 3,000 species, which is quite a lot, and it's the reason why they're one of my favorite families, just because there's so much you can find, especially when you start getting into the hybridization of them. You get a massive variety with them. Like for example, there's a Tillandsia, which is a small one, the small bromeliad, which is a flower that's maybe a couple centimeters large. Then you've got other ones like the Puya romandii, which is a flower that's over 10 feet tall, and that's just some of the variation. You've got some with thorns, without thorns. You've got like different color shaped ones, all types of variety with them, and they're absolutely one of my favorite species. I'm very excited to talk with you about today.
So the Bromeliads there is one familiar Bromeliad that everyone would know about, which was also a fruit. Can you tell our viewers what that is?
Yeah, if you can't guess it already, it's a pineapple is actually a bromeliad, and probably the most famous bromeliad has to be at this point, especially being out here in Hawaii. And it's one of the few edible bromeliads there, which has really made a name for itself all across the globe.
So you seem to have a lot of favorites for the Bromeliads. If you had to choose, what would be your top?
Oh, that's a tough one. Just because of the variety in the family, you really get some interesting hybridizations going on. So even some of my local nurseries have bromeliads there that I've only seen with them. But if I were to have to choose certain species or genus there, I'd say Bilbergia is definitely in my top. There's kind of a taller tubular shaped bromeliad, but because of that shape, you really can see the patterns going all up and down the foliage, and it's an interesting size and again shape of a plant you can put in your garden bed that you don't really see in too many places. So I really love the uniqueness that the Bilbergia can add to your garden beds. But if we're talking about just absolute flash and flare, the Neoregalia genus is absolutely, that's got to be up there as well. That's where you really get these interesting colors all along the foliage there, and you really just get an amazing variety with those. 2 Neoregalias can be completely different, like from oranges, yellows, pinks, all mixed within the foliage, splattered patterns. Like there's so much you can do with Neoregalia that's definitely got to be one of my favorites there. But also there's the smaller ones, which are very interesting. We have a lot of them in the garden. The Tillandsia, which is just a smaller bromeliad, it's the one with the smaller it's like the only centimeters large flower on them, and you can tie those onto the trees there. Like they're epiphytic, just like our orchids and vines, and so you'll find that when they're in clusters, you get these really interesting flowers and an interesting texture it adds onto the trees there, which I enjoy quite a lot with them. And I'd also have to say the Acmea blanchettiana is one of my favorites. It's one, maybe you've seen them, that they're these large orange bromeliads, and they'll have flowers like 6 feet tall, and I often see them lining fences, like especially against like a lava rock wall or something like that, like a black background. That orange just really pops, and they grow really well in clusters, full sun there, and they add a whole nother color and dynamic to your garden bed that I absolutely love. I love seeing them planted. We have some in the garden along our borders here, and they absolutely just draw your eye the moment you come across them.
I think I do actually remember seeing some of those scattered around the islands. I've also seen them in like dry places. So where would they actually originate from?
Oh, so that's a great question. So bromeliads actually originate in like Argentina and Chile, and actually colder, drier environments, like more so up on the mountains there. So like mostly they wouldn't have a lot of rainfall, like low humidity levels, and so those are maybe some of the ones that you see like in Las Vegas or something, like in front of a house, like in a desert area where it doesn't need a huge amount of water, and it's kind of evolved to survive. But the Bromeliaceae family also traveled over to the Amazon over time, which is where you get a lot of our bromeliads here, our tropical bromeliads, which love high humidity, love high doses of water there. And so that's another great thing with the variety of them, is you can really grow bromeliads in so many different climates there. And just because of how the origination, where it's come from, you can find them all over the world, really.
Okay, so if I wanted to grow my own bromeliad, what are some tips you'd give not only to me, but also to those watching from home?
So as with most plants, you're going to want to know where your bromeliad came from. So if it's more of a higher dry elevation, that's going to be like a big thing you're going to take into consideration based on your area. Most local nurseries, they're going to be selling plants that are specialized for the area that they're in. So that's already a great start, is just finding your nursery and kind of talking with them and seeing what they have for sale there. And another thing is with the bromeliads is, because their rosette ability to hold water, it becomes actually quite easy to figure out how much water you want with them. So I always just go by, you fill it up, and then you wait until it's empty. And then once there's no more water, it's evaporated out or however it goes away, then you just fill it up again. You just want to see water constantly in there. And a big thing with their soil, they don't like to be soaked. Because they're epiphytic, just like our orchids, you're going to want to use a lot of orchid mediums for them. So they'll do well in bark, they'll do well in peat moss, or many of those things. They're very versatile in that regard. Like, I've even seen them planted on boulders, just directly onto them, into nooks of rocks. I've seen them planted in normal soil, but usually the soil mixture that you're going to want to use is very similar to orchids and epiphytic plants there.
Okay, that's good to know. So you mentioned how they hold water. I know there are a lot of people who are a little bit concerned about that. So what can we do to avoid pests from filling that?
Yeah, you're right. That is not a misconception, but it's something that deters a lot of people away from growing bromeliads, because the water in that rosette cup that it holds, if left alone, it can become stagnant, especially if it doesn't evaporate. So a lot of people find they have like mosquito problems or little things that will start building up in their bromeliads, and so it's a little extra maintenance absolutely for them, but I believe it's totally worth it, just because bromeliads will give you a show all throughout the year, and just a little extra maintenance is worth it for the family. But so with the stagnant water, the way I like to deal with it is I just water my bromeliads more often. So if I have them outside, they start filling up with water. If I just make it a part of my schedule to hose them off, give them more new water, cycle it out, I find I haven't had any mosquito problems or pest problems with them there. And another way is they have like mosquito dunks or powder. So one little sprinkle across your bromeliad garden and keep away the mosquitoes for months there, even with them. So they absolutely have solutions for it. But I understand, like, people don't want to get bit by mosquitoes. And actually another way that I've seen people deal with it is they have them in areas where either with full sun, which a lot of our bromeliads already do like, or in places with really good airflow to encourage evaporation with it, because it's all just that water sitting there that's going to give you the problems there. So just be conscious, not have them sitting out for too long, and that's a big way.
So earlier you mentioned the pineapples. So does that mean all bromeliads are edible or only a few?
So most bromeliads are not edible, which is probably why pineapple has been propagated so much, because it is such a unique taste to the bromeliad family. But I've heard of smaller ones, like some that grow sweet little berries, but they don't tend to be known for their edible varieties. Like, I know there are some also with you can take the baby foliage of them and you'll find them in like some Eastern dishes, like a lot of cooking. But for the most part, you're not going to want to go taking bites out of your local bromeliads there.
Wow, it seems like there is a lot that the bromeliads have to offer. They have a nice showing, nice color. It's truly a special family in the garden that we have.
Oh yeah, I agree entirely. You know, like, again, the variety, even the uniqueness, like just tracking back like how they've evolved, like their ability to hold water is meant so much for them. It's to retain it in dry areas, but you also see them doing so well in rainforests. It's one of those few plants I've seen that can really just expand from highlands to lowlands. The variety with them, like, even just looking at the foliage, I can't see anything else like that in the bromeliad family. Just the sheer variety that you get on the foliage there. And also, not to mention that it's almost a year-round plant. You know, like some species you're waiting for the flower, so mostly you just have this kind of bland green plant there. But bromeliads are specialized where they have these colorful foliage and they'll produce a flower, which is, you just get double bang for your buck, essentially, where you've always got a beautiful thing to see in your garden. And also they're super easy to propagate too, so you'll actually notice, like, they're called pups, or like baby bromeliads will be sprouting right off the sides of them. And so once that happens, you can just cut it, propagate it, super easy, just stick them in the ground again, and your garden just going to keep on expanding there. It's a very self-sufficient species. I will note that if your bromeliad's only going to flower once, just like our heliconias and stuff like that, so once you see the flower, just know that plant's going to whittle away just a little bit. But it's really an incredible family. I'm glad that you enjoy it there and that I get the opportunity to talk about it with y'all, because again, absolutely love bromeliads here.
Wow, that's all very interesting, but that is all the time we have on today's episode of Conversations with the Garden Bromeliads.
Yeah, and thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Mahalo for joining us for today's episode of Conversations in the Garden Bromeliads. If you have suggestions on what you'd like to see next, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow us on social media. Link is in the description. Stay tuned for our next episode.